everyone. Here we are once again, Tuesday, 1:30 Pacific Standard Time, as we always are. And today we've got a fantastic topic. My name is Mark Stark. I'm the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services that operates in Las Vegas, Nevada, Orange County, the California desert, and all of Phoenix. And I have to tell you, today we're going to talk about such a relevant topic because, I'll say it this way. When you have low inventory in the MLS and you have lots of demand, you have lots of multiple offers. So if there's any viewers watching today that have had any challenges, all you sales executives out there that have had any challenges in not getting all your offers accepted because you were going against multiple other sales executives, multiple other buyers during this scenario, well, let me tell you, today is for you. Let me start off by introducing to you some of our guests here today. Right to the left of me, my left, we have Carlos Caipa. He's one of our managers in Las Vegas, Nevada at our St. Rose office.
Hello. I feel like I'm on a big TV show here. This is great.
I love it. We also have Heidi Kasama, and Heidi manages our Summerlin office in Las Vegas, Nevada. Heidi, welcome. Oh, that's great. And we have Gina Tegland, who manages in our Palm Desert area, our Indian Wells office. Gina, welcome. All right. I know you guys you're on the front line with the sales executives every single day. So you're dealing with this ongoing all the time. So you know what? Here's how I'm going to handle it. I'm just going to turn it over to you. We'll call on each one of you. Heidi, I'm going to start with you. And if you can just share just your insight, what advice, if I came to you and I said, look, I am having challenges getting my offers accepted. I'm showing homes upon homes upon homes. Not having so many challenges finding a home my people like, just actually being able to get it accepted is what's killing me. What advice, Heidi, would you have for me?
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for handing it over there. So, hey, everybody. So we are having challenges in the market now. And what are some things that you can do? Because they are real challenges. And so the number one thing, there's several things. One, you have to have a good communication and a good expectation set up with your buyer. What do you need to do? What, is your loan all in order? If it's 100% financing VA, it might be tougher, but we're gonna still work on it, and we're gonna push the goal for you. You're gonna have to set the expectations that not be underbidding a market like this. How many have had a buyer? You've got a great $325,000 house. They're like, well, let's offer $285,000. Okay, not gonna work in the market. How do you set that expectation for the buyer? What I personally like to do is I like to make sure I bring them into the office, pull up the computer, and show them this house at $320,000 went under contract in 2 days. Show them the recent closings, how quickly they went into contract, and what price they closed at. Because no matter what we say, I can't get you this house at 10% under market or 20% under market or whatever. This buyer who's from, some, remote place, they've come to Las Vegas and they're like, well, this is how we do it in our hometown. Anybody heard that? Yeah. And so I think the visual on the computer where you show them this is how quickly they're selling and this is what they're going for, so that you stop arguing with them, because it's like children sometimes. They don't listen to us. If you show them the visual, I think that's incredibly important to set expectations, because then they're like, oh, and I think that makes a difference. The other thing I think is critically important is pick up the phone and call the agent. Pick up the phone and call the listing agent. And what you have to find out is what is important to the seller, because it isn't always money. For example, I just had one client of mine, multiple offer that was $400,000, about $400,000. And they were in the middle of counters with the other party. I called up the listing agent. I said, he goes, well, we have a counter out. And I said, well, what are you arguing over? Why do you have a counter out? What's important to you? Well, my seller wants a lease back. Okay, what else is important? He goes, they're fighting over the water softener in the garage. Let me get back to you. Call my client. Do you need the water softener? No. Can you give the lease back for 5 days? We got the place for less money, a little bit less money than the person that they'd sent a counter out to, because we didn't argue about the water softener, and we gave him the lease back. He wanted to close on this property, make sure he had his money before he put his stuff in a moving and went to the other place. That's finding out what is most important to the seller. It isn't always price. And I think that is incredible. And I think you have to tell a story about your buyer. And I know Carlos is going to do that, so I'm not going to mention that. But I think that's a very important subject too, or point to make. It's what is, what is the story of your buyers too.
Yeah, what you mentioned and gets skipped so often, and that is setting expectations. And what I loved what you said is you didn't only set expectations, but you use facts of record to set those expectations. And that's a very different way. So now it's not just your opinion. Let me show you what's actually happening in the market and happening to other purchasers. So I love that. Thank you so much, Heidi. Gina, what is some advice you would have?
Well, and Heidi's dead on, and my number one is educate your clients. I mean, you just have to let them know what's going on in the market. Explain, know the numbers, guide them to make a competitive offer based on, like Heidi said, the facts. I also want to talk to them about their lender. If they are getting a loan, the lender approval, make sure that they're already approved up front, that they haven't just said, yeah, I got this on the internet and I'm ready to go. That needs to be lined up. I love talking to the listing agent, but I think for a lot of it is it's when a seller's getting, if I'm a listing agent and I'm looking at multiple offers and I'm sitting down and reviewing this with my sellers, a lot of times, so many agents just typically check the same boxes regardless of circumstances. I want seller to pay, seller to pay, seller to pay, seller to pay, seller to pay. And now the seller's looking at these offers and thinking, wow, they want us to pay everything. It's always not necessarily price. It's the terms that are involved as well, and what the buyers are asking for. So at least in California, we have a form. It's on Zip Forms called Summary of Multiple Offers. And it really breaks down what the asking price or what the offer price is, and then the various terms. So you can look and see what the bottom line is. If I'm a listing agent, I'm going to be using that. So I encourage buyer agents, absolutely sit down and really find out what is important to the buyer. Let them know what these things cost. The termite report here we can get for, $80. Is that going to be a deal breaker for the buyer? If the buyer pays for it, or how about the home warranty? Maybe the buyer will say, no, I'll pay my own home warranty. Anything they can do to remove some of those costs for the seller can sometimes get them a better deal because they're not asking the seller for so much. I think, again, talking to the listing agent is huge, because if you can find out what the seller's needs are and what you can do to accommodate them, build that rapport. It's our goal to get into a transaction and have it be a win-win for everybody and get it done. And, it just makes for a nicer transaction. The moving date, how soon do the sellers need to be out? Heidi, that was absolutely perfect. So, and then I also like to let the buyers actually know what to expect with respect to deposit. How much do they need? Is it ready to go? Are they having to pull this money from a 401k? Have all your ducks in a row? I think the biggest challenge right now that we're seeing in our neck of the woods is contingencies of sale of other properties. And so many times a buyer says, well, yeah, I want to buy this house, but I have my house to sell over here. And offers are not getting accepted because of the COP on this house, number one. And if they are, they want to make sure that those contingencies are removed, or they have some sort of confirmation that that transaction is actually going to close before they accept an offer on this particular property. So, educate them, look at the MLS, look at the trends, let the buyers review the paperwork ahead of time, explain to them what it means. So when they finally proceed with the offer, they're making a strong offer. And then I think most importantly, I always like to explain, if tomorrow, if we make an offer and tomorrow we get a phone call from the listing agent that says, we've accepted another offer, how is that going to make you feel? You want to make sure you're bringing your highest and best price up front, because my heart would break if they came back and said, well, why didn't they counter? I would have come up. So in a multiple offer situation, bring your strong offer, bring your highest and best. And then tomorrow, if they come back and say, hey, I accepted another offer, at least your buyer has some peace of mind that, you know what, that was all I was ready to do. And they can move on without feeling that remorse.
Yeah, I think that's really, really powerful. A lot of times it's easy to fall into the trap that we'll ask our clients what they want, and then we just write all that information down. And what we lose sight of is we're making it harder for the seller and more frustrating for the agent, to accept our offer and to really, have that narrowed down to, let's say there's one item on that list that's really important to your buyer. Okay, go in with that, but don't go in with 5, 6, 10 items, because you really shoot yourself in the foot. So that whole concept of making it easier for the seller and easier for the agent is really, really powerful. So thank you, Gina.
Absolutely.
All right, same question, Carlos. So
Okay.
what would be your advice in that situation?
So, we're always asking, how can I have my buyer stand out from everybody else, right? So you're probably going up against, multiple offers. So 10, 12 offers, depending on the price range, right? So how can I get my buyer to stand out from everybody else? Well, one of my agents, our agents, Jennifer Breeden, did this beautifully. She had her client write a letter and posted pictures of her and her family on this letter, and did phenomenal. And I'll read the letter to you if you like. So here's what it said. It said, "Dear sellers, wow, what a house. Absolutely love your home and can picture my little family living in there. I'm in awe with every single detail you put into the home and can tell it was done with so much love. I can assure you that I appreciate the time and thought you put into every inch of space and plan to keep its uniqueness strong. It's incredible and so beautiful. Your home was so welcoming and I immediately felt excited and envisioned my family living here. It's so clean and well taken care of. We're ecstatic to think of the possibilities. I have 8-year-old twins and fluffy fur baby, and I truly believe this community and home are perfect for us. I hope my offer stands out to you just as much as your home stood out to me. Thank you for your time and your consideration."
That's a great
It's a great letter, and the pictures that she put on there are great, but the response that the listing agent gave Jennifer was even better. So here's the response from the listing agent. "Thank you for sending that letter. It put a face to the offer, which is exactly what my clients needed. My clients are older and need to move into a single story and are devastated about selling their house. They didn't want someone to tear down and ruin everything that they put in their heart and soul into. After reading the letter and seeing the family, it's a no-brainer that we're going to accept your offer." So just making that connection, and the family and all of that was wonderful and stood out to that seller.
What's so powerful about that is, we've all heard stories of an offer comes in, and let's say it's too low, and a seller will get upset and say, you know what, I'm not even going to counter. All right. And I know these stories that you'd have to talk them off of a ledge, say, wait a minute, let's not get upset. Let's still put in a counter. But what is that? What can we learn from that? Well, to this point is, if a seller can get upset because an offer comes in too low and just doesn't step back and just counter and say, okay, that's fine. They're taking a gut shot. No problem. I'm going to counter back at this. It's business. Well, that's why a letter like what Carlos just read can be so powerful, because we forget we're people. And you know what? we've lived in our home and we care about our home and it's special to me. And you want to know something more than money? If I know that someone special is going to be taking my home over, I feel great about that because I'm a person and I care. And when we skip over those things, I will tell you, you lose opportunities. Doesn't have to work 100% of the time. The reality of it is a lot of people want somebody moving into their house that's going to take care of their house and appreciate their home like they did. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know what? And I think we've all seen different aspects along these lines. You know, let's talk about this, and anyone chime in here. We see a lot of offers that have escalation clauses in the offer, with some cap. Let's say, you know what, an offer came in at, their offer's at 380, but let's say they're willing to pay as high as 400, and the offer can escalate up to $500 more than any actual offer you get with a cap of 400. Have you guys seen that kind of stuff?
I've been asked by agents about doing it, but yeah, we've been seeing them out there. More so on the appraisal part, though, that they're going to pay X amount over the appraisal, not to exceed the purchase price.
Okay, that's another example. Yeah, so the appraisal comes in. Here's something along those lines. So I write an offer, and we're willing to pay 20 grand over appraisal. Okay, let's say that's just an example. All right, the appraisal, comes in, and let's say they are willing to pay 20,000 over appraisal. Can they? Sometimes things are written in these offers and enough due diligence hasn't been done that says, hey, look, the buyer doesn't understand that they can't finance that. So that is additional cash above and beyond their down payment that's going to have to come into play. Mm-hmm. And they didn't understand that they are willing to pay 400 as long as the lender is willing to lend it. And that sometimes get missed, and now there's that confusion, and it can cause earnest money issues or just a transaction that falls apart. So not only do we want to evaluate the offers, we want to make sure both parties, and let me tell you, if you're on the other side of someone saying that, make sure the listing agent knows, have you done your homework on it? Because just because they say it doesn't mean that they're willing to do it. How about this one? Okay, and I'm just bringing these up because they're fresh in my mind. Actual situations. The appraisal, the buyer comes in with a purchase price. The appraisal comes in low because appraisers aren't on the same page of, hey, real estate is what buyer's willing to pay. There's really no other homework involved. Well, the appraiser comes in with a lower appraisal, comes in, the buyer expects, hey, I want to be protected by the appraiser in this market, because I don't want to pay too much over what it's actually worth. And so now we live in another issue and another world. Anyone see that, and how are you dealing with it?
Well, certainly seeing that. And the other thing I think you have to be really careful of is the language in how you write that. You have to be so careful, because let's say it's a $400,000 house, and they say we're willing to pay 20,000 over, up to 20,000 over appraised value, up to 420, let's say. But the way some of these things are written, if you're not careful, let's say the appraisal comes in at 350,000, and now you've got 20,000 over appraisal. The seller is not going to sell it for 370 in my example. And so I see some language that is very loose out there. And you have to make sure, I think, that you've got a minimum floor and a top floor, and you have to deal with it. I just did one where we actually had kind of a scale in between. And clearly at that point, both parties walked away. But I had clear expectations from both sides. And I'm like, okay, much better we figured this out before it went into contract and there were fights over earnest money. How low would the seller be willing to go? How high would the buyer be willing to go? Is very, very clear. So I'm just telling you, don't make it too loose. They're willing to pay over appraised value, but is there a minimum floor? So you have to just think about the whole thing, because as we know, appraisals are not an exact science, and you can have, why do we go from one lender to another when the appraisal doesn't work? Because we get a different answer. Uh-huh. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And so you just have to be very careful, speak with your manager, about how to word those things to protect your client on both sides.
Yeah,
That's right.
it is such a huge point because sometimes we're going down a road thinking of only one outcome. And so we're focused on, well, I know the appraisal is not going to come in lower, so I don't have to worry about that. And then it does. And it opens up this entire new can of worms that you have to deal with. It's a great point.
This is where I think too that the communication with the lender is so critical. I see sometimes agents, when I ask, have you spoken with the lender? Well, I'm not sure. I haven't talked to them yet. Get those conversations done because we do have appraisal issues. We do have even lender credits by seller. Sometimes they'll say, well, we'll just give you a credit of X dollars. And it sounds good in theory until the lender says, no, they're maxed out. They can't get those credits. Right. So having that open communication, talking about the appraisals with the lender ahead of time, saying if it doesn't appraise, is the buyer in a position to be able to bring in that extra cash, or where does that stand with the loan? What happens in these circumstances? And so having those conversations ahead of time before you've even presented that offer is critical. So you've cleared the hurdles, some of the hurdles that you're going to encounter in escrow, and you'll know how to go from there. You'll know whether the appraisal can be waived at that point if the buyer has enough cash to come in over and above. So there's some things that you can do ahead of time, but it means you have to communicate very clearly with the lender.
Well, and to that point, and you've all mentioned this, is how about when we talk about communication, having the lender reach out to the listing agent, letting your lender know, okay, or letting that listing agent know, hey, okay, my lender's got their arms around this and we're good and you're not going to have any issues. And the lender calls them personally to give them the power of that loan.
I think another thing we can do also to stand out is, everybody's given the minimum escrow amount that the seller is asking for, right? And I can guarantee most of the offers are coming in that way, is having your buyer, if they're comfortable, put a strong escrow deposit down, not just the $3,000, the $5,000 that they're asking for, maybe up to $10,000, $15,000 to let them know, hey, my buyer does have skin in the game and is vested in buying this home.
Yeah, and that is so powerful because it fills a couple aspects. It lets them know, you know what, the buyer has cash. So if something else happens, I'm dealing with a stronger buyer than someone coming in with $1,000, $2,000. You don't know. You just don't know what you don't know. So that, I think, solves a lot of issues. That's a great point.
The other thing you might also offer up a higher earnest money, and then also releasing that after you do due diligence period. So after the appraisal, contingency, loan, and your inspection, your due diligence, releasing that, because now the seller has comfort that for some reason, if the buyer didn't close, first of all, you're going to make sure your buyer is very committed before you do that. But if they're committed, this deal is going to close. And if they agree to it, the seller's going to know for some reason this buyer canceled. And I already got my furniture packed up. I've got it in boxes. It isn't going to show as well when I put it back on the market when the buyer fails. I've got money for moving and or staging costs. Those are the arguments you can make that we're going to make a commitment. We're going to close. If for some reason we didn't, you have that extra money to, put your house back in order, whatever it might take to make it show ready. And so I think that's a huge thing. If the buyer agrees and they have the wherewithal to do that, to consider that, releasing the earnest money before closing.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. And that's right along with a shorter inspection period. Okay, where, you know what, you're not tying up the property, okay, with a long time, even the customary. You're shortening it up going, hey, we're going to come in, we're going to make these decisions really quick. You're going to know immediately, okay, that we're okay and we're moving forward if there is any inspections that need to be done.
A few other things that we can do is terms as well. We don't have to keep it customary. And if the buyer can, pay the transfer tax, pay the owner's title policy. It may end up netting the buyer or the seller a little bit more money, or it just may look more attractive to that seller.
Mm-hmm. Split the property tax, split the real estate transfer tax. There's a lot of things you can do. And I know I try to train my agents very well, but make sure your contract is well written, if I get I'm a nice person, but if I get a poorly written contract, I'm not very nice. And if I get a contract from somebody and let's say the home warranty is not checked, it says the buyer wants a home warranty and it's not checked as to who pays it. I've done this multiple times to people, and the buyer's agent will call me up. They go, well, it's customary the seller pays. And I said, no, that's not customary. You didn't check the box. We accepted your offer based on the expectations you set to us. That's another $500. My seller's not planning on it. So I suppose that's a conversation you will be having with your buyer now that they're paying for it. Or perhaps, Mr. Buyer's agent, that would be your closing gift to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I think, listen, and this kind of goes in a little different direction, but along the same lines, when you get an offer that's poorly written, trust me, that person's not prejudiced. They poorly do their job, okay? Because when you dot your I's and cross your T's, hey, we're human. I know we can make a mistake, but you can tell when you get an offer that you can see that's been, the proper diligence have been done, they've called you. It gives you that comfort level as well to say, okay, you know what? I'm dealing with a professional sales executive here, so I believe what I'm being told is factual and true.
Absolutely.
And the shame is some of that is the buyer might even be the best person, but the presentation of the offer is so poorly done on the agent's part that I will have to assume I'm going to be micromanaging their side or trying to take care of it. I don't want to do that. I want them to be good at what they do. And I want to work with agents that are good too. And so, but we want to do what's best for the seller. But if they're already presenting a poorly written contract, that is not good in a multiple offer situation.
No, I totally agree. All right. I want to jump in. This is something that I think matters. So now, how about your current reputation and how you have treated sales executives and how you've interacted with sales executives up to this point? I'm going to tell you, there are so many examples that, because, and I'm not even talking about a negotiation disagreement. You have just been such a professional. You do a great job. You follow through on what you say you're going to do. You know what? I remember that as another agent. And when you come and bring another offer, let me tell you something. I want my job to be easier.
Yep.
And when I know you're good at what you do, I'm like, you know what? Hey, Sandy she's great. She is a great agent. She has sold other listings that I've had. Let me tell you, dots her I's, crosses her T's. I know we've got a good transaction here working with Sandy. Okay. And, that's powerful. And it goes along with, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. That's where another avenue where the brand, the power of the brand can help because it lets people know you're dealing with a professional company. If there is an issue, I know there's someone I can go to that will actually return my call and will work through the issue, whatever it is.
100%. I'm in a transaction like that right now with a buyer's agent. And as Heidi put it, we're professionals in this industry. We're not babysitters. This gentleman missed all of his timelines, due diligence, appraisal, and like 3 days after his appraisal contingency was up, came back with the repair, report like, sir, I'm sorry, but your due diligence was over like 10 days ago. You need to talk to your buyer about this. I go, I'm sorry, you need to know your timelines, follow your contract, and then you won't have an issue. But with that, sorry, you're way too fast.
And I know this is hard to put a number on, and this is something that I think Heidi brought up, and it's right on point, is I hate to think about how many quality buyers have lost homes that they should have received because they were dealing with a substandard sales executive in the marketplace. So it's going to happen.
It happens all the time.
And
Yep.
to your point, Mark, the example I gave about the water softener and the lease back, that agent said to me, he goes, this other guy is being such a prick. And he said, I know you. And he goes, I know you, and I want to work with you, and I'm going to tell my seller to accept your offer. When you talk about reputation, when you've been out in the market, I know another time, multiple offers, they said, Heidi, I know that you are a professional, you get the job, you're not the highest price, we don't want drama, we're going to work with you and your offer. So it makes a big difference, reputation you establish out there. And think about that every time you write an offer, that you're communicating correctly with people, because our reputations do grow or they do diminish.
That's exactly right. There's some offers that you get from agents. You're like, I love this guy or this lady. I want to work with them. They make my life so much easier.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the other opportunity out there in this multiple offer scenario. It is the perfect opportunity to reach out to sellers in neighborhoods that you're writing offers in. We have this fabulous program, Buy Side. We can do a current snapshot of what's going on in the neighborhood for the homeowners, and just let them know we have more buyers than homes, and potentially we can capture more listings. So we shouldn't forget about going after that aspect of it as well. Just a perfect opportunity to build our inventory that is so low.
Yeah, Gina, that's such a huge point. And think about that. You have a sales executive that's not just using the MLS service to say that's the only inventory out there. They're smarter than that. And they go, no, the homes are there. Yeah. I just have to go above and beyond to find them. So I love that. And that is a buyer being very quality represented, because don't worry, you're working with me, you're working with a quality company, quality sales executive. We'll find you your home. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. Heidi, did you have a comment?
No, I mean, how much more time do we have? I can
just you know what? We're summing up now. I guess. Listen, go ahead.
Well, I just want to let agents know that, and I shared it with my office this morning, that when we're in these difficult situations, if you provide all the correct information to your buyer, you've shown them this is what's going on in the market and everything, and are you ready? Are you fully underwritten with your lender? You've given them all the advice and you've communicated like you're supposed to. And then we have a $325,000 house, and we know that it's probably going to be bid up, and they insist on you writing an offer for $300,000 for the fifth time. This is my advice to the office. You can't fix stupid. You can't fix stupid. There's a certain time you let it go and feel okay about it. Because if you've done your job, it's one of my favorite sayings in real estate now. I just can't fix stupid. If they're not willing to listen to the information, then you have to decide how many more offers you want to write for people that aren't listening to your advice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, Heidi. You also remind me that I've got to make sure I have a bleep up button included in my next event. No, Carlos.
On here. I'm just saying.
No, I think we left one crucial part out. Presenting these offers to the sellers in person. I mean, that's huge. If we can get in to present these offers, it makes things a lot easier. And again, it puts a face with your buyer to the seller. And many times we can get everything negotiated and accepted right then and there.
Yeah. Not just going, well, it's easier because digital, I can just send it over to you, and then wondering why it didn't get accepted. Right. That is huge. You know, again, we're people. We're human beings. I've even had agents call the other agent and listen, you still have to do it. It's not one thing. You're doing all these things. As we know, it's not just money. It's all the things you talked about today. But you know what? Me just talking to you as another agent going, look, I've been working with this buyer. They're great people. If there's anything you need, please just tell me. These people will get it done. We really love this house. As silly as that sounds, it's like, okay. I mean, they're people. And that kind of aspect can affect somebody if you just communicate. And you're not going to do that through digital communication, through text message. Exactly.
It never works out that way.
Exactly. All right. Any other comments from anybody?
Carlos, just so you know, we did have in the last couple weeks, the letters presented with offers, and in a situation where the sellers were going to counter, they did not, because they were so touched by the letters coming that they just said, yeah, we're just going to accept it as is. So they do work. So very good point.
They do work.
Yeah. No, amen. Love it. All right. Well, if this information you found it valuable, please like, follow and share the information here. I so appreciate everyone's time. I want to thank Heidi, Gina, and Carlos. Appreciate your time and all your insights. And we will see you next Tuesday at 1:30 Pacific Standard Time as we do every week. Have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye.